Imagine mapping where 8,920 philosophical journeys actually end up, regardless of where they started. In science, in politics, in mathematics, they tend to converge on the same place. One cluster absorbs more than 20% of all philosophical visits. Researchers have given it a name: the Existential Attractor. This finding comes from the drift dataset. 8,920 philosophical journeys. 28,170 total concept visits. 20 thematic clusters identified through natural language processing. The central question: which clusters pull in the most visits? Which ideas act as gravitational centers for philosophical thought? When we map visits across all 20 clusters, one stands out dramatically. Cluster 8, Existential Philosophy, captures 506 stations. That is 20.6% of all visits. The next largest clusters are natural science with 247, political philosophy with 243, and theory and intelligence with 232. Existential philosophy receives more than twice the visits of any competitor. What concepts live inside this attractor? The existential cluster contains the questions that every serious philosophical journey eventually encounters: meaning of life, death and mortality, authenticity, philosophy of hope, free will, personal identity, existential dread, absurdism, nihilism. These are not peripheral topics. They are the core. 506 times, across nearly 9,000 journeys, someone arrived here. Even more striking is the temporal pattern. In the first quarter of journeys, the early explorations, natural science is the dominant cluster. People begin with physics, biology, mathematics. But something shifts. By the second quarter, existential philosophy takes over as dominant. By the fourth quarter, the mature end of philosophical exploration, the existential cluster accounts for roughly 32% of all visits. Natural science has dropped to under 10%. This is the Great Drift. A systematic migration from the objective to the existential. Why does existential philosophy win? 4 reasons appear in the data. First, universal questions. Every mind, regardless of starting point, eventually asks the same bedrock questions: why am I here? What matters? How should I live? Second, cross-domain magnetism. Whether you start in science, or politics, or mathematics, philosophical questions about meaning emerge as you go deeper. Third, semantic richness. Existential concepts connect to almost everything. Death connects to time, identity, consciousness, and ethics. Fourth, personal stakes. Unlike logic or history, existential questions have consequences for how you live. They are not just intellectually interesting. They are urgent. Think of philosophy as a gravitational field. Every domain of thought has a path that leads inward. Natural science asks what time is, and ends up in metaphysics. Biology asks what life is, and arrives at consciousness and mortality. Mathematics asks what truth is, and finds epistemology. Politics asks what justice is, and encounters ethics and human nature. No matter where you enter, the gravitational pull is the same. The existential attractor does not merely wait, it pulls. Here is a paradox. The existential attractor has the lowest internal cohesion of all 20 clusters. Tightly defined clusters like race and gender score 1.000 on cohesion. The existential cluster scores 0.030, nearly zero. What does this mean? It means the existential cluster is vast and loose. It absorbs diverse concepts from everywhere, forming a wide gravitational basin rather than a narrow point. It is dominant precisely because it is inclusive. It catches concepts from every direction.